Hey, friends, welcome back to another episode of Unbottled Potential, the podcast. It is me, your host, Amanda Kuda, and I am really jazzed to share some insights with you today about shifting your mindset around how your social life is evolving as an alcohol free person. Specifically, we're going to talk about how to quit drinking without becoming a social recluse. And if you missed the other episodes I've done kind of in this social potential series that we've been running for the past month, I definitely want you to go back to listen to episode 9, where we talk about kind of clearing up some energy with your existing friendships. Episode 10, where I interview my friend Nick Gray, and he will persuade you to consider becoming a social the hub of your own social circle and taking some responsibility by hosting parties and events. And also episode 11, where we talk about calling in and attracting new friendships. And a lot of the words and the mindsets that I use in some of those episodes are going to be building blocks for this. It's not important that you listen to both of those or all three of those episodes first, but it definitely will help you with some of the nomenclature I'm using, because I really focus in my coaching and teaching practice on mindset first. Your mindset is what drives your actions. It drives what you are doing in your life. And you have to choose as a non-drinker to start showing up differently. And in order to show up differently, you have to believe differently. And so because we often get ingrained in us these end all be all beliefs about what makes a proper social life and what you need to do to socialize and what is good, right, and best and popular in terms of socialization, it can sometimes feel really disarming and really challenging to shift a variable. And in this case, obviously, the variable we're shifting is removing alcohol from the social equation. And that can require you to have some downhill trickle effects. Did I say that right? I don't know. Some downhill, make some other downhill changes, downstream changes, if you will, with your social life as well. So today we're really going to dive into the mindset and help you understand how to quit drinking without becoming a social recluse. And I think you'll really appreciate some of the insights I offer today, because they are going to challenge you and they are going to go be a little bolder than what some people are sharing with you. So I invite you to tune in, listen, take what you need from this episode. Know that these are not absolute rules, but that if you choose to lean in, that you're going to get some really great insights that are going to help you shift your perspective. So without further ado, let's dive in and talk about how to quit drinking without becoming a social recluse. Now, I want to remind you kind of how my lineage of socialization happened in adolescence and in my adulthood, to help you kind of maybe see yourself in me a little bit. I was a super awkward kind of kid, and I always knew that I saw the world from a different perspective than many of the other kids. I was also a highly sensitive empath, probably had some intuitive gifts as a younger kid. And because I was never really taught how to monitor those, I labeled myself as different. And even though my differences are my superpower, I did not understand that as a little kid. And so, what I did as someone who was very intuitive and very empathic is I watched what all the other quote unquote normal kids were doing in terms of socialization. And I decided to take on some of those behaviors. I just said, okay, copy paste, I can do that. And so instead of being my mystical, magical unicorn of an authentic self, I started to tweak the ways in which I showed up and kind of put on a performance mask that I would use in order to make myself like everyone else. And when I transitioned into adolescence, one of the more easy ways to jump into this new persona that I had created, this social, fun girl, party girl, carefree gal, I'm just like everyone else, cool girl persona, was to drink alcohol. And when we use something outside of ourselves to shift the way that we show up, we really get into a slippery slope, because what started to happen is I started to lose track of what was actually me and what was part of my social persona that I had created. And it became really messy, and it was really difficult to make the decision to drink or to stop drinking, because I also had to make the commitment to unravel this persona I had created from who is my authentic self, who is my performative self. And I just want to acknowledge how intimidating that can be. If you've taken on a persona, it is very intimidating to consider, okay, what if the person I've been being is not the actual me? And now I have to figure out, what do I like socially? What do I like? I mean, in all aspects of my life, but specifically when it comes to social life, because the majority of that persona was something I put on for I put on as a social front. And so if you are feeling this way, I just really, really hold space for, in fact, let's just all take a deep breath in. If you feel that, let's take a deep breath in together and just acknowledge that it's okay for your transition into this new lifestyle to feel intimidating and to feel messy. It feels like, I'm getting the vision of if you're a gal, you've probably had a chain necklace that's gotten wadded up before, and you've had to figure out how to get that knot out and how to individuate and differentiate the strands of this necklace to where it can be in true form again. And that's what we're doing. We're learning how to differentiate the pieces of you from the pieces of you that you created in order to fit in order to be like everyone else, and really appreciating that you don't have to be like everyone else. Yes, there are some aspects of your life, of your social life, and of your social preferences that you will still get to embody, but you don't have to do what everyone else is doing, because everyone gets to have a different perception of what is fun. And the first lesson I want to teach you today is probably one of my edgiest. It's probably the one that gets people the most riled up. And that is, when it comes to your social life, I want you to take the opportunity to embrace this possibility that if it's not fun without alcohol, it's probably just not fun. I'm going to say that again. If it's not fun without alcohol, it's probably just not fun. Oof, that could be a major blow to the ego. And what we've done essentially is we've convinced ourselves to tolerate a whole bunch of experiences, a whole bunch of situations that really maybe aren't for us, that really aren't that fun. But in order to make them fun, what we've done is we've diluted our mind, we've diluted our sense of consciousness, and dulled ourselves down to where we are accepting things that are unfulfilling and probably overstimulating as fun, when really that's not what our authentic self wants. We have diluted our mind. We've made ourselves stupid. We've made ourselves blind to the fact that some of the activities we're doing actually aren't that fulfilling. And let me tell you, when you embrace this realization, if you choose to, it can be a huge wake up call, because it can be really confusing when you have this litany, or this list of things that you did for quote unquote fun in your free time, and you start to realize you don't so much enjoy them anymore. And I will tell you how that started to manifest for me, because the path that I chose when I stopped drinking was to keep doing the same things. I was very firm in my decision. Once I made the decision that alcohol was a no, it was pretty much a no problem for me. I didn't have much temptation to toggle back into that old lifestyle. And so I really put myself out there and gave myself the challenge to keep doing a lot of the social activities I was doing before. And that worked for me. I'll talk about another path in just a second. It worked for me to keep testing the waters. But what was really humbling, what I found really quickly, is that doing the same things I used to do with my friends without alcohol in the picture. So we're talking about, we had this event every Friday. We would go to this Mexican restaurant here in Austin and have margaritas and get a huge table, 20, I'm talking like 20 or 30 people. We called it Margarita Friday. And I'm like, of course, I'll still go to Margarita Friday. I love chips and salsa. I love Mexican food. And what I found was it was almost intolerable. It was so loud. We had to wait so long for our food, and I didn't have anything to numb that sensation. I didn't have anything to numb the fact that you couldn't hear over the crowds, and it was so loud. And then when you got to the table, the only people you were able to converse with were the people directly to your left, right, or in front of you, because it was so rowdy at this place. And I realized, wow, this is not fulfilling for me. This is overstimulating. There's too much noise and stuff going on. And I actually am not getting to connect with any of my friends because it's so discombobulating and loud and rowdy. And they're 3 margaritas in by the time we sat down. So we're on a completely different level. And I realized this actually isn't fun. This isn't fun for me. And therefore, I don't have to do it. And the same thing happened with, boozy brunches, Sunday fun days, all of these things that I had thought were so fun and carefree and wonderful. I started to realize 2 things about them. One, they were actually incredibly overstimulating. And one of the ways in which I separated myself from that overstimulation was to numb my mind. So when things were too noisy, too crowded, too just raucous, what I was doing unwittingly was numbing out my mind with alcohol so that I didn't have to connect to all of the hustle and bustle. And that allowed me to stay present. Present is a weird word. To stay in physically in an environment that probably was a little too much for me. And what I found as a non-drinker with these overstimulating environments is I have a very low tolerance for them. I have a very low threshold. It has to be a really, really special overstimulating experience for me to want to stay and hang out. Because the second thing that happens in overstimulating environments is too that you don't get proper connection. And as an empath, I actually thrive on deep, fulfilling conversations. I hate superficial surface level conversations. And you really can't get at those deeper conversations when the environment is overstimulating and when your friends are all getting intoxicated and they're not able to stay on the same cognitive level as you. And so what I realized is that these situations actually aren't fun at all for me. And so I had to decide, all right, if these are a no for most situations, what do I do? And I am going to give you a list of things that worked for me. Here is how I helped to reimagine my social life so that I didn't become a social recluse, because it would have been really easy to say, okay, Margarita Friday, boozy brunch, and Sunday fun day are out. I'm just going to stay in and do nothing. And that was also a no for me too, because I knew I needed to challenge myself and I knew I needed to have friendships. We thrive off of human connection. So I needed to reimagine what human connection looked like for me if it was no longer that series of events that I used to consider fun. Now, I want to pause for a second because I said I would give you another option. I did the option where I thrust myself into the same social situations to test the waters, and that felt good for me. But I also want to acknowledge that you don't have to do that. If you feel that you're going to be tempted by those situations, don't go. Do not go. Simply do not go and move on to this next step that I'm going to tell you about, which is reimagining what your social life looks like. If you don't think you can test the waters, don't even bother, because the biggest thing that I want you to do is remember the commitment you've made to yourself. And if a party or a Sunday fun day or a boozy brunch is going to challenge that, then just don't go, because you deserve to keep that commitment to yourself. And if you feel like you're going to be on shaky ground, just skip it. Skip it for now. And you can go test the waters later when you feel a little better. And I think what you'll find for the most part, what myself and most of my clients found is that most of those scenes are a no. And maybe that's your wine club, maybe that's your book club, maybe that's your girls' night, maybe that's your, who knows what it is. Whatever your regular scheduled events were, you're probably going to find a lot of them are a no for you. Now, what I hope is that you find a couple that are still a yes, that are still really exhilarating and fun, and that you set some limits for going to those. But what I imagine you will mostly find is that those events are overstimulating, under fulfilling. And if so, here's your next step. You get to turn the fear of missing out, FOMO, which you're probably bound to experience at some time, into the joy of missing out, JOMO. You get to renegotiate what fun is and really step into, what do I, as the authentically embodied, sober version of me, like to do for fun? And so here are some action items I would give you. Especially if you're experiencing kind of that FOMO feeling. The first is to understand that understand what you're actually missing out on. And if you dip your toe back in that pond a couple times, just like I did, what I realized I was missing out on was overstimulation, kind of shitty conversation, superficial conversation, spending a lot of money I didn't want to spend, hangovers, staying out too late, not getting a lot of great sleep. There was really nothing productive and connective I was missing about my friendships in those situations. Now, I still wanted to be friends with many of those people, but not in that environment. That was a no for me. So I started to feel really joyful about what I was missing out on. Like, oh my gosh, great. I get to miss out on crummy conversations, loud environments, spending a ton of money. I get to miss out on that because I've made the choice, and I get to take control of and take the steering wheel on what my social life looks like now. And so in the last episode, episode 11, I talked a little bit about belonging yourself and inviting your friends out to do things that offer you a greater chance for connection. And I'm going to remind you of that as well. I want you to start taking control of your social life and start inviting people into environments that you think are going to be fulfilling for you. And if and be open to the possibility that they would want to do that too, because they value your friendship. And I won't go too much into the friendship aspect because I really want you to revisit episodes 9 and 11 for that. But I want you to know that it's very, very probable that you will find great, amazing ways to connect with your old friends, but you need to take control of that situation. And in order to do that, you have to investigate a little bit. You have to do some experiments and you have to reconnect with what brings you joy. You have to get really clear on what is it that I enjoy doing? What is it that actually lights me up? What is it that I would love to share with other people? And this might feel like a little bit of a silly process to you. And it might, who cares? Who cares? Honestly, if it feels silly, because you know what is fun? Being silly. Being silly is actually a lot of fun. And testing and experimenting can be a lot of fun. And so I want you to reestablish, get comfortable with again, investigate what is it that brings you joy? And some of that could be just going out and doing a lot of things, having a lot of experiences and seeing what you like. But if you want a shortcut, what I would recommend is for you to look back at who you were when you were a little kid, when you didn't need alcohol to have fun, that you could find fun by yourself, just being imaginative, just with a cardboard box, just with playing pretend, just with reading a book, just with zipping into your imagination, into a world of whimsy and wonder. What is it that you had so much fun doing as a kid? What is it that you got lost in for hours? What is it that you like to fantasize or play pretend about? What is it that you like to research or that you just got lit up by? And I'm going to give you a couple of examples. I had a client yesterday actually who we were talking, and I asked her this question and she said, I'm having a hard time remembering. So I said, let's look at it in a different way. If you don't remember what brought you joy or what was fun, just what did you spend a lot of time doing? Where were you when you were daydreaming as a little kid? Because we all daydream. We can't help it. And she told me she spent a lot of time as a little kid out on their trampoline, either jumping on the trampoline or laying on it. And I got this intuitive hit. I said, this is going to sound really silly, but I want you to either go buy or go look up in your neighborhood a class on a rebounder, which is like a little mini workout trampoline, and just see what that ignites for you. Go back and try this thing. Try the adult version of this thing that you found to be really fun as a kid. I know it sounds silly, but I'm being very called to this for you right now. So TBD on how that works out for her. This was literally an assignment yesterday, but I often get intuitive hits for my clients and how they can apply things or little things that they can do to really step into this new version of themselves, even when they sound really silly and wacky. And I have a feeling it's going to be a really fun and profound experience for her. So you can look at things that you did as a child and you can find adult applications of it, or you can find literal applications. Now, here's another one from my inner childhood. If you watch my Instagram stories, you will know that this last week I went and saw the teeny bopper boy band. They're not teenagers anymore. They're like in their 30s and 40s, adult men boy band, Hanson, who when I was in 6th grade, I loved so much. They were the first, well, Taylor Hanson, first of all, who I thought would be my husband, was the first boy that I remember having a big crush on. And I loved Hanson. I had posters everywhere. I probably wrote Amanda Hanson on the inside of my journals. I don't know. I just loved them. And I had their CDs and t-shirts, but it was a very closeted fandom for me because I remember in my small town, no one else liked them, at least no one else cool. Not that I was cool, but no one who I admired liked Hanson. And so I felt all alone in this. And so I remember I had this folder, and on the inside left flap, I had inscribed, I love Hanson. And then I wrote each of their names. And one day I had opened up that folder in class, and this kid that I had a crush on looked over and kind of made like a cheeky remark. And I actually think it was in flirtation and jest, but I was so wanting for approval as a little junior high kid, as a little 11-year-old, that I felt so embarrassed. And I immediately thought, I'm abandoning Hanson. I took down all the posters. I decided this just can't be something I like anymore because it's not cool. And how freaking sad. How sad that I was so impressionable and so hungry to be liked and loved that I neglected something that I really enjoyed, that really lit me up, that brought me joy. Like I remember the feeling. Music is such an activator. I remember the feeling of listening to their album specifically. I mean, everyone hopefully has heard the song Mbop and feeling so good about it. And so recently that song has been coming up on my Spotify and I have just been jamming out in my car. And something came across my newsfeed that they were going to be performing here in Austin. And immediately I knew I have to do this for my inner child. I'm almost like tearing up thinking about it. I was like, I have to do this for little 11-year-old Amanda who abandoned this thing that she loved, which sounds so silly. I'm going to that concert alone or not. And luckily my beautiful friend Katie joined me and we had the best freaking time. It was such an affirming experience. It was so fun and also such a full circle moment, an opportunity to love up on that 11-year-old girl who let go of something that she really loved. And it was so worth it. And so you can find so many amazing healing opportunities by tapping into things that you really loved and adored and invested a lot of time and energy in as a young kid and adolescent. So if you are not, really feeling, if you're lacking for answers of what you would like to try to have fun, look to your inner child. She or he has so much intelligence for you. They really knew what was up before, probably 11 was the first time I like really abandoned things for to be good, right, and popular. And so when you're going to find so many examples of that, of when you abandoned your fun, of when you stopped doing something you really loved because someone told you it wasn't cool or that it wasn't productive. I can't tell you how many people I know who abandoned hobbies that they really loved in childhood because when they got into adolescence that their parents or someone else said, well, you can't do that anymore because it's not productive. Another example for me is ever since I was a little girl, all I wanted to do was take dance classes. And my mom was a single mom and she really, really worked hard to be able to barely afford that. And she often, cleaned my dance teacher's house to pay for the lessons. And I loved dancing. I was really good at it. It just lit me up. And I'll never forget this moment in high school where I don't know what had happened, but maybe my mom wasn't cleaning for my dance teacher anymore or something, or maybe, that didn't cover all of our bill. And in front of the entire dance class, my dance teacher said to me, Amanda, when is your mom or when is your family going to pay your bill? And fuck, I was so heartbroken and ashamed. And it's no surprise that just a few months after that, even though I had danced and wanted nothing to do, nothing lit me up more, I quit dance class. And I didn't dance again until college. I almost had a minor in dance in college. And then again, practicality got the best of me. And I said, Amanda, you'll never make enough money as a dance teacher. This isn't a practical career. So I abandoned it. And in sobriety, I have revisited that. I now take a dance class. Actually, my friend Katie, who went to that concert, the Hanson concert with me, I met through my women's hip hop dance class that I love. And it brings me so much joy to revisit this thing that I've always known I liked. And there are so many opportunities for you to rekindle fun in your life. And no matter how silly or weird it feels, I promise you that you can find an opportunity to have a full circle moment and nourish that inner child who knew what was up. She or he knew. They had the front row ticket to your dreams and desires. And the more often you can tap in and love and nurture them, the better. Truly, truly recommend it. So really, I want you to be brave enough to be a little juvenile, to be brave enough to ask what brings me joy. And there's probably plenty of things that you never even fathomed in childhood that might bring you joy that you can explore now. I would love for you to just sit down and make a list of what sounds joyful or entertaining or exhilarating for me. What do I spend time learning about? Maybe even look to your For You page on Instagram or TikTok. What do you stop and like get engrossed watching videos about? And stop freaking watching videos of people on the internet and go do it. Go do it, even if it's just in a small expression. Even if you watch makeup tutorials and it's just buying an online class on how to do makeup, or maybe whatever it is that you find yourself getting engrossed in learning about, go find a way to bring that into your life in some small way. Okay. There are infinite ways in which you can apply your dreams and desires into your current social life. And just like me, you're going to find that there's at least one person out there who wants to do it with you, or you're inevitably going to meet a new friend at that event, at that activity, at that class that already likes doing it and is proud of it. And you could make a new friend who knows where. I know that if I wouldn't have taken my friend Katie to that concert, that I would have met a new friend there. I know it. I truly believe it. And so I want you to know that you deserve joy. You deserve to have fun. Joy is your birthright. It is your birthright. That is supposed to be your natural default state. And so many of us have gotten so serious and so mired down with what we have to do and who we should be and what is monetizable and what is da 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 blah blah blah, that we have abandoned our joy. And I really want you to commit to taking on seeing through the eyes of joy, seeing through the eyes of possibility, expanding into what you could do, who you could be, if you were just willing to have fun, real fun, fun that you didn't need to dull down your brain to experience, fun that allowed you to truly, deeply connect with the people around you and have a shared experience that wasn't based around getting drunk together. That's lowbrow fun, kids. No shame, but anyone can do that. It takes guts, it takes courage, it takes effort to go and have real fun, to let yourself be free. And it's a practice. You have to practice flexing that muscle to be free. There are, it might feel uncomfortable at first. It might even feel dangerous. And unless it feels literally unsafe in your nervous system, in which case, please reach out. And I want to make sure that I get you in touch with some resources to help you regulate that nervous system. I want you to give it a try. I want you to know that you can do hard things, uncomfortable things, challenging things, new things. You have so much opportunity available to you to expand into this place where joy is your native come from. And I don't want you to hold back on that. I want you to know that you are capable and worthy of joy and fun. And that is what life is about. It's so uplifting. Now, I know that you're probably wondering, well, Amanda, how can I feel more comfortable doing this? How can I put myself out there more? I'm feeling really anxious about some of these situations. So if you are wanting to learn how to navigate a little of some social situations, wanting to learn how to set boundaries and create some rules for yourself and for others, I'm going to be discussing that next week. So tune back in. This week, I really just want you to focus on reimagining, shifting your mindset around what is fun. And that is going to help you shift how you can quit drinking without becoming a social recluse, because it's going to open you up to a full new world of opportunities of social activities that you can experience that are actually truly fun and fulfilling. And that's what I want for you, because guess what? It's fun to have fun. And I want you to live through the lens of fun more often, the true lens of fun, the lens of fun where you're belly laughing so hard and your eyes are spilling over with tears because you are experiencing true uninhibited joy. That's what you deserve. So if this resonates with you, I would love if you like or share this episode with someone. If you take a screenshot and share it on Instagram, be sure to tag me. If you just want to say, hey, whoa, Amanda, I'm committing to my fun. This is what I'm going to do this week. I am committed to this. Or maybe you do this exercise and you revisit some of the things that brought you joy in childhood and you can't quite figure out how to apply them as an adult. Message me. I'm happy to troubleshoot with you and give you some ideas. I'm really good at this. And I want you to have fun. I want that so badly. I want you to have that unfiltered, joyous fun. Because if you're having fun, you are just vibing at a different level, and that's going to trickle down into the lives of everyone around you. And they deserve that too. They deserve to see that side of you and experience that. So if you love this episode, let me know. Also, I wanted to remind you that I am giving away a beautiful meditation to help you unbottle your potential. The way that you get that is by rating and reviewing the podcast and taking a screenshot before you submit, and then just sending me that screenshot over on Instagram. And I will send you a link to a free guided meditation to help you visualize what it looks like, what it feels like to unbottle your potential in every area of your life as a non-drinker. I really think you're going to enjoy it. And I so enjoyed having you here. This was fun for me. Recording these episodes is really fun. And I hope to catch you back next week to talk about some practical tips for navigating social situations. Thank you so much for being here. You all are great. I dig you. I love you. Talk to you soon.